Nevertheless, I want to move on to Kursk. As I understand, that was the last front that you fought on?
I'll say right off the bat that I was practically not involved there. I was just transferred in 2024 to a new corps, well, one that was being formed there. Battle Group Sever was doing all that. And I ended up in a rear regiment, so it's hard to say anything specific. It's hard to say from my own experience.
Well, I have some questions. It's clear that, as you said, you were in the rear, but now we see that the Ukrainian front in Kursk is collapsing. Why did the Ukrainians ultimately fail to achieve their goals in Kursk?
It's the same thing. They thought they could drive through in Hummers, that special forces would stir things up. They had this notion that if they attacked conscripts and captured a couple of cities, Russia would be scared and everyone would run away. I don't know why. They seem to have conjured up these hypothetical conditions for themselves and took that as gospel. They didn't invest enough into this attack. They didn't bring in sufficient forces. They thought it would go well. Why didn't they know that on the Kursk front, near Kursk, near Belgorod, there was a whole grouping from Battle Group Sever, a whole grouping where people are in every grove? Didn't they know about this? I don't know how it happened. Maybe the US is still not providing satellite images of Russia. So they tried, failed, and just clung to it with all their might. My division's 30th Regiment fought them every day. The Marines also had conversations with them. For show, the Ukrainians wanted a reason to say, look, we've invaded Russia, as a counterpoint to the Russian army's successes in Donbass, the LPR, and even Zaporozhye. They wanted to pat themselves on the back and claim, but look, we still have Suja. That's the crux of the matter. Why didn't they succeed? Because our Russian command didn't fall for this provocation. They didn't go and pull everything toward Kursk to retake it as quickly as possible. Not Kursk itself, but the Kursk front. They didn't fall for it. They just worked methodically, quietly, bit by bit, squeezing the enemy. Apparently, their calculation was that our command would panic and pull everything from all directions to Suja to get it back. Fortunately, we didn't fall for it.
So it seems like the main mistake the Ukrainians make is that they don't fully understand their opponent, despite the fact that
politically they don't understand us.
Politically, they don't understand.
I can't comprehend this, honestly. Like, we've lived next to each other as brothers. We were one country for a long time. It's a deep-rooted history. Well, we've basically been one people throughout history. So Ukraine and Russia are single totality, and yet they don't understand us. It feels like they're not planning these operations, but someone in the West, in the Pentagon is. Because how do they not understand us and that we're not going anywhere, we're not going to run, we're not going to fall for provocations? It's odd. Each time one of their big operations, it feels like the Americans are planning their offensive in Iraq. That's the feeling.
But by the way, we had a question in the comments. How do Russian soldiers feel about Ukrainians? Do they still see them as a brotherly people, given everything that's happened? Or do they see them as enemies now?
Well, as enemies, probably. Well, soldiers at least. But it also depends on the unit, from one political ideology to another. We have communists among us, comrades, and all that. Some try to reason with the prisoners immediately. Someone like Milichakov from the Sabotage Assault Reconnaissance Group, Rusic, who knows what he's doing. Just kidding, that's not true. By the way, he's a good guy. I served with him. He didn't do anything like that. It's all lies. But some just cope with it calmly. Well, they took some guy and said, let's give him some tea. He'll soon be sent to the rear to rest. He surrendered, good job, way to go. There's that. It varies quite a bit. In most cases, of course, it's friendly. So, more or less friendly with respect, let's say. They don't beat them up too much, because only when you capture someone can you use physical force. However, once he surrenders, what's the point? When you take someone prisoner, we have this one guy, a short fellow that goes by the call sign Shmiga. He says, come here, bud. Pulls the POW closer. The prisoner says, you're not going to kill me, right? Of course not. Go peacefully to the rear. And he himself went to the rear without cover. No one was covering him. Well, people were sitting there anyway. Where would he run to? And so what did he do? He sat down calmly. We bandaged his hands and gave him tea. He went to a POW camp. All calm. We even exchanged him later. We kept an eye on his social media. Of course, we checked his phone, copied everything right away. You have to check. Then we saw 3 months later that he was in Poland, so they let him go to Poland and everything was fine with him.
God willing, better to be in Poland than die for Zelensky.
Of course, 100%. Why die for Zelensky?
So I have a question. We've talked a lot about different battles during the special military operation, how the Russian army has changed. But if you listen to the speeches of some members of the U.S. Congress, for example, Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican from South Carolina. He says that the Ukrainian conflict was a great geopolitical victory for the U.S. because with others' hands, they allegedly drained Russia, destroyed its best troops, and made the Russian army much weaker than it was in 2022. As someone who has fought himself, who has seen how the Russian army has changed, what would you say to those people?
Well, how should I say, I think it's guided by such ideas. But did he even serve?
No, he didn't serve.
Only military people probably think like that. They sit there and think that if someone has been in the army for 15 years, they're a mega professional. If they lose everyone, then the army doesn't exist. Well, that's generally how it was set up in politics, that a contract soldier is someone who has served for 20 years. They're most likely a professional. If, God forbid, they get lost or leave the army, then that's it. The army doesn't exist. But as it turned out, politicians and generals were preparing for a war that had already happened, that is, for the past war. The army and its structure are always changing. Before, knights were the toughest. You had to dress one guy, feed him so he could walk around and kill everyone, then he became a knight. When these guys appeared, they became unnecessary. Right? That's how history goes. Now, special forces aren't needed, for example, because there are scouts in every regiment. The Rangers from the 75th Brigade, I think, will be very upset when they find out they're not needed. Where's some Uncle Vasya who drank vodka for 5 years, then signed a contract, and now he can bomb them all with one strike? They'll be very upset. Well, I think I could also pretend to be a ranger. I'd be very upset too that now they joke, you can't fight in black sunglasses and a Panama hat. The Russian army hasn't become weaker at all, and the best specialists weren't destroyed because the best specialists only appeared now. Everything that existed before the special military operation were specialists of the old format. And as it turned out, with the progress of technology, they were already outdated. So, comrades Republicans, don't worry, Rangers, Marines, they'll all go into the past, and Zoomers will sit around and bomb you.
Well, hypothetically, they could mobilize some iShowSpeed or some other popular streamer gamer and make him a major general in the U.S. Army.
No, well, I think at least they could give him a platoon commander right away. I think if he streams without delays, without connection drops, then he could set up a stream for the command post and show everything. He knows how to handle it. In principle, that's how it is. We had some mobilized streamer, and he set up Discord, for example, to show people, colonels and generals, the camera from reconnaissance UAVs. Before that, no one knew how to do it. He knew where to plug it in, how to set it all up on the internet. Good job, man.
So we can confidently say that in 2025, the Russian army is stronger than it was in 2022?
Yes, it's stronger in almost everything now. The only thing is that it lacks a little discipline. But discipline is always a tricky thing. You have to sit in the barracks, get to know each other for a long time, and then there will be some discipline. You have to stay in barracks mode with the group, all that. But in every other aspect, command, tactics, and technological support, it has improved a lot. Don't look at the fact that they're walking around in Chinese helmets. They've got more equipment on their backs than the entire command post had in 2022. They've got 6 radios, cables with satellites, Starlink and Gazprom's satellite internet.
You said Starlink?
Of course.
But wait.
We only use it to watch pornography, don't worry. We don't use it for military purposes. It doesn't block us.
So we've discussed a lot today, Ivan, from how the conflict began, how modern warfare has changed, the mistakes made by the Ukrainian command. Is there anything else you'd like to add, something we haven't had the chance to discuss for one reason or another?
I don't even know. I'm still curious. I wanted to add something. Americans should understand that in these negotiations, can I say this? Well, if anything, you'll cut it.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I hope the Americans will understand in these negotiations that it's not them who are like, we've finished everything with peace, but simply, we defeated you. NATO, Americans, we defeated you. And what Donald Trump says, he's just subtly admitting that America lost this war. That's it. I want to say this because it's true. You gave Ukrainians everything you could, trained them how to act, but nothing worked. And Russia achieved everything it wanted and continues to achieve. That's good.
And on this very powerful note, thank you, Ivan. A big thank you to our viewers. If you're tuning in for the first time, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to us on both Telegram and X. Thank you all for your time. Until next time.